Waves blended harmoniously with the symphony of seagull calls, painting a picture of a seaside paradise. The cerulean expanse of the Pacific Ocean beckoned to sun-soaked beachgoers and enthusiastic surfers alike, inviting them to immerse themselves in its embrace. Halewa was a haven of natural beauty, a place where the convergence of land and sea seemed to harmonize perfectly. Among those drawn to the allure of the ocean was 14-year-old Kikoa Anderson, a rising star in the world of surfing. Kikoa's name was whispered with reverence among the local community, his prowess on the waves capturing the attention of seasoned surfers and newcomers alike. With an unquenchable thirst for the sea's embrace, Kikoa's very essence seemed intertwined. Kaya aspired to follow in Kikoa's footsteps, her dreams of conquering the waves inspired by his boundless determination. She often held her mother's hand, the gentle lull of the coral sea. The azure waters stretched to the horizon, inviting surfers and beachgoers to embrace the allure of the sea cemented their bond. They had met in Sydney, two souls connected by their shared reverence for the ocean. Their mutual passion had drawn them to Port Douglas, a haven for surfers and marine enthusiasts alike. The coastal town's charm and the vibrant marine life of the Great Barrier Reef had beckoned them, making it their chosen home. With a loving squeeze of her hand, Ethan offered Natalie an encouraging nod. The sun's warm embrace and the rhythmic sound of the waves created a backdrop, conquering the waves, while Natalie's vibrant energy radiated like the sun's warm embrace. Together they embodied a harmony between the human spirit and the ocean's ebb and flow. Unbeknownst to Natalie and Ethan, the deep waters harbored a predator, a force of nature whose primeval instincts held no room for mercy. As the couple reveled in their aquatic dance, a shadowy presence lurked below, an apex predator biding its time. The sun's warm embrace cast an illusion of safety, masking the impending danger that loomed just below the water's surface. Without warning, chaos erupted as the ocean's calm facade shattered. Natalie's board jerked violently beneath her, a forceful impact that jolted her senses. A searing pain radiated through her leg. Her world was reduced to a maelstrom of agony and confusion. In an instant, Natalie's world transformed into a nightmare. The grip of terror tightened as the chilling realization dawned upon her. A predator was attacking. Her frantic gasps for air were met with the ocean's unforgiving embrace, and she grappled with a primal fear that defied reason. A silent scream echoed through the depths as the tranquil ocean became a battlefield of survival. Ethan, just meters away, turned in horror to witness the unthinkable. Time seemed to slow as he comprehended the terror unfolding before his eyes. Without hesitation, he surged forward, his powerful strokes propelling him towards Natalie. In the shadows, the shark closed in on its prey, its gaping maw revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. The shark, driven by primal instincts, lunged at Natalie with a burst of lightning speed. She felt a searing pain as the creature's teeth sank into her flesh, causing a torrent of panic and adrenaline to surge through her body. She fought against the predator's crushing grip, her limbs becoming weapons of desperation as she struggled to break free. Ethan's powerful strokes brought him closer, his love for Natalie driving him forward. With a guttural roar, he lunged at the shark, his fists a blur as he struck the creature's side. Each blow was fueled by raw determination, a fearless defiance against nature's cruelty. Amidst the struggle, a moment of clarity emerged. The ocean's depths transformed into a brutal arena of survival, where humanity clashed with nature's ferocity. With a final surge of strength, Natalie managed to break free from the shark's grip, propelled towards the surface by sheer willpower. Ethan's furious assault caught the shark off guard. The sudden release allowed Natalie to claw her way to the surface, gasping for air as she emerged from the water. The wounds on her body were evidence of the fierce battle that had taken place beneath the waves. Deep gashes marred her limbs, the physical toll of the shark's relentless attack. Blood mixed with the salty sea, a stark reminder of the danger that lurked beneath the ocean's facade. With urgency and concern etched into his features, Ethan helped Natalie back onto their surfboards. Together they paddled towards the safety of the shore, every stroke a testament to their resilience. The once inviting waves now seemed ominous, their beauty tainted by the memory of the predator lurking beneath. As they reached the shore, the crowd that had gathered watched in awe and disbelief. Strangers offered their assistance, wrapping towels around Natalie's shivering form and helping her to her feet. Ethan's grip on her hand was unwavering, his eyes
seemed calm and peaceful. Then suddenly, Alex felt a sharp pain in his leg. He looked down to see a massive great white shark, its razor-sharp teeth sinking deep into his flesh. The force of the attack knocked him off his feet, and he struggled to stay afloat as the shark dragged him underwater. The group of teenagers witnessed a horrifying and violent attack as the shark's teeth sank deep into Alex's flesh, causing him to cry out in pain. The other teenagers screamed and tried to swim away, but the shark was too fast. As the shark circled back around for a second attack, its jaws gaped wide open as it prepared to strike again. This time, it bit down hard on Alex's torso, severing his body in two. The teenagers saw the full extent of the damage it had caused as their friend's lifeless body floated to the surface. torn apart and mangled beyond recognition. They watched in horror as the shark continued to thrash around, hungry for more. The other teenagers in the group realized they were in danger and quickly began to swim away as fast as they could. The water around them was turned up, making it difficult to see where the shark was, but they knew they had to get as far away as possible. As they swam, the teenagers could hear the shark's powerful thrashing in the water behind them, which only spurred them to swim faster. They knew they couldn't outrun the shark, but they hoped to create enough distance between themselves and the shark to give them a chance to reach the shore. Despite the terror and panic they felt, the teenagers remained focused on swimming and tried not to let their fear get the best of them. They swam in a zigzag pattern, hoping to make it harder for the shark to follow them. Eventually, after what felt like an eternity, the group reached the shore. They staggered out of the water, panting and trembling with fear, but relieved to have escaped with their lives. They looked out at the water, watching as the shark continued to thrash around, its massive body visible in the churning waves. The attack of the great white shark sent shockwaves through the beach, and people quickly realized that they were in danger. As the other teenagers in the water tried to swim away, people on the shore began to scream and shout, urging them to come back to the beach. The beach quickly became a scene of chaos as people scrambled to get out of the water and call for help. As news of the attack spread apprehension, she knew that studying bull sharks could be dangerous, and that even the most experienced researchers could fall victim to a sudden attack. But she was also passionate about her work and believed that the insights she would gain from her research could have a significant impact on our understanding of these fascinating creatures. Once she reached the dive site, Dr. Sanchez wasted no time in getting to work. She carefully donned her wetsuit and diving gear, checking each piece to make sure that it was secure. She then descended into the water, her heart racing with anticipation. For the next few hours, Dr. Sanchez swam through the crystal-clear waters of the Gulf of Mexico, observing and documenting the movements and behavior of the bull sharks she encountered. She used underwater cameras and tracking devices to gather data, carefully noting each observation in her research journal. She was carefully observing a group of bull sharks when she noticed one particular shark, a large female, exhibiting some unusual behavior. The shark seemed agitated and was swimming erratically, darting back and forth with alarming speed. Dr. Sanchez became increasingly concerned as the shark began to circle her, her movements growing more frenzied by the minute. She realized that the shark had likely been disturbed by her presence and was becoming aggressive. Despite her fear, Dr. Sanchez knew that she needed to remain calm and rational if she was going to survive the encounter. She slowly began to swim away from the shark, maintaining eye contact and making slow, deliberate movements to avoid triggering any sudden attacks. Suddenly, the shark lunged towards Dr. Sanchez, its jaws gaping wide. Instinctively, she rolled onto her back and kicked out with her feet, managing to land a blow on the shark's nose. The impact stunned the shark, and she swam away as fast as she could, trying to put as much distance between herself and the shark as possible. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest as she glanced back over her shoulder, expecting to see the shark hot on her trail. But to her relief, the shark seemed to have been momentarily stunned by the blow to its nose, and it did not pursue her. Instead, it circled around in the water, as if trying to decide whether or not to make another attack. Dr. Sanchez knew that she could not let her guard down, even for a moment. She stayed vigilant, keeping an eye on the shark's movements as she swam back towards the boat. But just as she was beginning to feel a sense of relief, the shark suddenly lunged towards her once again. This time, Dr. Sanchez did not have the luxury of surprise. She was ready, and she quickly twisted her body to the side, just narrowly avoiding the shark's jaws as they snapped shut in front of her face. She kicked out with her feet, striking the shark's side with all her strength. The impact seemed to stun the shark once again, and it retreated a few feet back, circling around as if weighing its options. Dr. Sanchez knew that she could not keep fending off the shark forever. She needed to make it back to the boat before the shark decided to launch another attack. With adrenaline pumping through her veins, Dr. Sanchez swam as fast as she could, her arms and legs working in perfect synchronization as she propelled herself through the water. The shark pursued her for a few more seconds before finally giving up and disappearing into the depths of the ocean. Dr. Sanchez emerged from the water, gasping for breath, but relieved to have survived the harrowing encounter. She knew that she had narrowly escaped a deadly attack, and she would never forget the lesson she had learned about the power and unpredictability of the creature she studied. The reason for the bull shark's agitation is not immediately clear to Dr. Sanchez, but bull sharks are known for their aggressive nature and unpredictable behavior, and it's possible that the shark was simply reacting to her presence in its territory. However, as Dr. Sanchez later reviewed the footage from her underwater camera, she noticed that the shark had a large fishing hook embedded in its mouth. It was possible that the hook was causing the shark's pain or discomfort, making it more aggressive and unpredictable than usual. Dr. Sanchez knew that the presence of fishing gear and other human activities in the ocean could have a significant impact on the behavior of marine animals. She made a note to investigate further and to share her feelings with local authorities and founding excitement of undersea exploration. After much research, Randall chose Mossel Bay, a place renowned for its vast population of great white sharks, to try his hand at shark cage diving. The idea of being submerged in a steel cage, teetering precariously on the ocean surface while a colossal predator swam around, both fascinated and terrified him. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience that could go one of two ways: an unforgettable thrill or a terrifying disaster. The journey to Mossel Bay was long, but when Randall arrived, he was struck by its immense beauty. The cerulean waters of the ocean shimmered under the sun's rays. The coastline was a picturesque panorama of rocky cliffs and sandy beaches. The tranquil town was small, but it was clear that this place held great power, with a possibility of danger lurking just below the water's surface. Randall's excitement grew as he boarded the boat and set out towards the diving location. The cage was ready and waiting for him, and he couldn't wait to be lowered into the water. As the cage sank into the depths of the ocean, Randall's anticipation turned to fear. The water was murky, and he couldn't see far beyond the steel cage. The silence was deafening, and the only sound was the rhythmic breathing of the diving crew. Suddenly, a group of great white sharks began to circle the cage, their teeth glistening in the murky water as they attacked the steel pegs. Randall could feel his heart pounding in his chest as he watched them, wondering if the cage could withstand their attack. But as the sharks continued to circle, the cage remained sturdy, and Randall felt confident that nothing bad could happen. As the minutes ticked by, the tension grew palpable as the sharks kept circling the cage, their razor-sharp teeth bared in a menacing display. Randall and the crew felt a sense of relief when the sharks eventually stopped attacking the cage, only for their relief to quickly turn to confusion as they suddenly disappeared without a trace. In the murky waters, a thick layer of foam and bubbles made it difficult to see anything. But in the depths, Randall caught a glimpse of something that made his heart race with fear. A massive figure was moving towards the cage with deadly precision. It was coming fast, and there was nowhere to hide. As it approached, the figure became clearer, revealing itself to be a colossal great white shark. Its massive body dwarfed all other sharks they had seen before. Its scarred sides bore the evidence of countless battles, and its cold, dead eyes were fixed on the steel cage with an unerring focus. The crew and Randall watched in terror as the shark kept circling the cage, getting closer and closer with each pass. The atmosphere was thick with fear as they waited for what would happen next. The suspenseful silence was shattered when the shark disappeared suddenly into the depths of the ocean, leaving them all gasping for air. With the sudden appearance of the colossal great white shark, the crew of the diving expedition was thrown into a frenzy of fear and panic. They knew that they had to act quickly to save Randall's life. Without hesitation, they pulled on the rope that would lift the steel cage back to the surface. As they hauled it up, Randall could feel his heart pounding in his chest, and his body was shaking with fear. Just as he was about to breathe a sigh of relief, thinking he had made it out alive, the bottom of the cage was struck by a massive force. It felt like a powerful blow from a sledgehammer, and Randall was thrown off balance, his body jerking wildly in the water. He knew that something terrible was happening, and he could feel his fear growing with each passing moment. The sound of the impact was deafening, and Randall could feel his ears ringing. The water around him churned and frothed, and he knew that something was trying to break through the cage. His mind raced as he tried to imagine what kind of monster was capable of such a feat of strength. Randall's mind raced as he frantically scanned the murky waters, desperate to identify the source drag Randall's mangled remains down into the dark abyssal depths of the ocean, far from the safety of the surface. It was a gruesome and unsettling sight, a grim reminder of the dangers that lurk beneath the waves. The attack was so sudden that the diving crew was not able to react accordingly. Randall's body was never found, and the story of the attack sent fear and terror to the diving community. It was a reminder that nature was unforgiving.
The incident had forever altered their lives, a reminder of the fragility of existence and the enduring power of love. As Natalie and Ethan emerged from the ordeal, their bond deepened, their love a beacon that had guided them through the darkness of the abyss.
By tall cliffs on either side, creating a natural amphitheater that amplified the sounds of the waves and the laughter of the people on the beach. The cliffs were covered in lush green foliage, providing a striking contrast to the golden sand and blue water. At one end of the beach, there was a small harbor where boats could be rented for fishing or sightseeing. At the other end, there was a rocky outcropping that jutted out into the water, providing a popular spot for cliff jumping. There were several amenities on the beach, including restrooms, showers, and a snack bar. Lifeguards were on duty throughout the day. They knew that sharks were attracted to schools of fish, so we scanned the water for any signs of movement or activity. They also checked their fishing chart to identify areas where the water was deeper, hoping that this would increase their chances of finding sharks. After a few hours of searching, Toshiro spotted a large fin breaking the surface of the water in the distance. He knew that this was likely the shark he had been looking for, and he quickly steered the boat in its direction. As they approached the shark, Toshiro could feel his heart pounding in his chest. He knew that sharks were dangerous, and that any misstep could be fatal. But he was determined to catch the shark, and he believed that he had the skills and experience to do so. Toshiro, being the most experienced fisherman in the crew, took the lead and began taunting the shark with his fishing pole, hoping to provoke it into attacking. But the shark was not easily fooled. It circled their boat, watching him carefully and waiting for an opportunity to strike. Toshiro cast his line, using a large piece of fish as bait. He waited patiently for the shark to bite, hoping that he had chosen the right spot and the right time to catch it. The tension on his fishing line was palpable, and he could feel his adrenaline rising as he waited for the shark to take the bait. Finally, the shark made its move, lunging at the bait with lightning speed. Toshiro pulled his line away, trying to get the shark to come closer to the boat so they could catch it. The crew was excited, and they cheered Toshiro on, watching as he fought with the shark. But the shark was too quick, and it turned on him, attacking his arm and dragging him into the water. The crew quickly sprang into action, pulling Toshiro back onto the boat and attempting to save his life. They saw that Toshiro had suffered serious injuries, with bite marks on his arm and torso, and blood was gushing from the wounds. The crew knew that time was of the essence, and they immediately began to administer first aid to Toshiro. One of the crew members applied pressure to the wounds to stop the bleeding, while another crew member checked Toshiro's pulse and breathing. The crew realized that they needed to get Toshiro back to shore as soon as possible so he could receive proper medical attention. They radioed for emergency assistance and were able to get in touch with the Coast Guard, who sent a rescue helicopter.
Activity. Their presence a menacing threat to both surfers and swimmers. Mackay had imparted wisdom to his son on how to handle encounters with marine predators, instilling a sense of caution that he hoped would protect Kikoa from harm. But even the most vigilant preparation could not prevent the chaos that was about to ensue. Amidst the churning waves, an unthinkable scene unfolded. Kikoa's body was gripped in the jaws of a 10-foot bull shark. The predator's primal instincts had turned the tranquil waters into a battleground. As Kikoa fought desperately, the shark's powerful bite bore into his leg, causing excruciating pain. Blood began to mingle with the water, forming a grim testament to the fierce struggle taking place. Mackay's eyes widened in terror as he witnessed the brutal attack on his son. Fear and adrenaline propelled him into action. Without hesitation, he plunged into the water, racing against time and the relentless current to reach Kikoa. As the waves raged around them, he managed to pull Kikoa from the shark's grip, a surge of fatherly strength triumphing over nature's brutality. A searing pain radiated through his body, a visceral reminder of the peril he faced. Panic and adrenaline surged as Kikoa's limbs flailed in a desperate struggle to free himself from the shark's grip. The battle beneath the waves unfolded in a chaotic frenzy. Kikoa's thoughts raced as he fought to break free, his instincts and training colliding with the primal force of the predator. With sheer determination, he managed to wrench his leg from the shark's grasp, his surfboard becoming a lifeline as he fended off the relentless attacker. Mackay's eyes widened in terror as he witnessed the brutal attack on his son. Fear and adrenaline propelled him into action. Without hesitation, he plunged into the water, racing against time and the relentless current to reach Kikoa. As the waves raged around them, he managed to pull Kikoa from the shark's grip, a surge of fatherly strength triumphing over nature's brutality. With Keikoa's injured body safely ashore, Makai's heart pounded with a mix of relief and concern. Leilani, Keikoa's mother, had been watching from a distance, her own heart gripped by a mother's worst nightmare. She rushed to their side, her face etched with worry as she assessed Keikoa.
Overhead, searching the water for any signs of the shark. They used thermal imaging cameras to try to detect the shark's body heat, but they were unable to locate it. As news of the attack spread, more and more emergency services arrived on the scene, including Marine Patrol units and Coast Guard vessels. They scoured the water for any signs of the shark. The beach became crowded with onlookers, and many people were outraged that such a dangerous predator could be lurking so close to shore, and called for increased measures to control shark populations. For the family and friends of Alex, there was no comfort to be found in the aftermath of the attack. They were left to grieve the loss of a young life cut tragically short, and to wonder how something so horrific could happen to someone so innocent. The memory of that day would haunt them forever, a reminder of the brutal and unpredictable by the vibrant coral reefs that burst with colors and the schools of exotic fish that swam in synchronized motion. He had seen enormous manta rays with wingspans that seemed to stretch as far as the eye could see, and gentle nurse sharks gliding through the water with effortless grace. With each dive, Anthony felt he was entering a magical realm where he could escape the noise and chaos of the world above and immerse himself in a world of quiet wonder. The ocean floor was like an otherworldly landscape, dotted with bizarre rock formations and coral towers that rose like spires towards the surface. Anthony felt like he was living in a dream as he swam through the crystal clear waters, taking in the stunning beauty of the ocean's depths. On a balmy day, the adventurous Anthony decided to embark on a journey to a secluded area of the island that he had never set foot on before. After renting scuba diving equipment, he dove into the emerald green waters that glistened under the sun's rays. As he descended, he felt the cool water engulf him, and he was immediately greeted by a school of tropical fish that swam playfully around him. Anthony was thrilled to explore this new world that lay beneath the surface, and he couldn't wait to discover the hidden gems that awaited him in this remote part of the island. The sunlit water was teeming with a kaleidoscope of vibrant sea creatures, all going about their business. Anthony was in awe of the ever-changing underwater scenery. He watched schools of neon-colored fish darting through the coral, while iridescent jellyfish drifted like slow-moving fireworks. Suddenly, a sinister silhouette appeared, a looming figure in the distance that sent chills down his spine. As the creature approached, he could see the distinctive stripes of the massive predator. It's a 14-foot-long tiger shark, and its eyes were fixed on Anthony. As Anthony gazed into the soulless eyes of the tiger shark, his heart pounded with fear. He felt the cold, inquisitive stare of the shark that had just appeared out of nowhere. Its powerful jaws moved with fluid grace as it circled him, a silent predator in search of its next meal. Anthony's mind raced as he realized the danger he was in. He tried to swim away, but the shark was too quick. Suddenly, the shark lunged forward and clamped its jaws around his leg. Anthony felt a searing pain and was dragged down into the depths of the ocean, struggling to break free. Despite the agonizing pain, Anthony refused to surrender to the jaws of the beast. He wielded his diving knife, lashing out with all his might, but it was futile. The shark's scales were impenetrable to the flimsy blade. With each chomp, the predator's serrated teeth tore through Anthony's flesh, causing him to scream in agony. As time passed, Anthony's strength waned, and the water around him grew crimson with his blood. He struggled to stay conscious as the predator continued to circle, its eyes fixated on its prey. Anthony knew that he needed to act fast before the shark launched its final attack, but with his limbs growing weaker by the second, it seemed that his fate was sealed. In his last-ditch effort to save himself, Anthony made a desperate move to reach the nearby rock formation. As he got closer, he saw the jagged edges of the rocks, feeling a sense of relief wash over him. But his hope was short-lived. The tiger shark quickly caught up to him, circling and thrashing in the water, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. With all his might, Anthony plunged his diving knife into the shark's eye, and the beast writhed in agony, releasing its grip on him. With a gasp of air, Anthony broke through the surface of the water, but the struggle was far from over. He floated in the open water, desperately trying to signal for help, but no one came. The pain in his leg was agonizing, and he could feel himself slipping away, growing weaker by the second. The sun beat down mercilessly on him, and the salt water burned his wounds, adding to the agony. As time ticked by, his strength waned, and his head grew heavy. Anthony knew that he was fighting a losing battle, and as the sun began to set, he prayed for a miracle. And then, with a final burst of energy, Anthony saw a boat in the distance. He waved his arms frantically, hoping that someone would see him. And they did. The boat raced towards him, and Anthony felt a wave of relief wash over him. He was going to make it after all. But it was not to be. As the boat drew closer, Anthony felt his body begin to shut down. He could feel his heart slowing down and his breath becoming shallower. He knew that he was dying. Anthony never made it to the hospital. His tragic story spread quickly throughout the local news, sending a shiver down the spines of all of those who had ever considered taking a dip in the ocean. It was a haunting reminder that despite the stunning beauty of the Bahamian waters, danger lurked beneath the surface. The unpredictable nature of wild animals. For a particular reason, he decided to take the boat for a trip around the island. The situation turned dire when the vessel's engine suddenly faltered, refusing to restart. Left stranded in the frigid waters near the island, Francis attempted to call for assistance, but was informed that it could be a considerable amount of time before a tugboat would arrive to aid him. With no means of propulsion and an uncertain wait ahead, he found himself in a precarious predicament. As Francis sat there waiting for the tugboat to rescue him and his stranded vessel, he couldn't help but feel restless. Something was nagging at him, like a persistent itch that he couldn't scratch. Suddenly, he remembered the acrid scent of smoke that had filled his nostrils earlier, emanating from the engine room. His curiosity piqued, he made his way to the aft of the boat, gingerly leaning over the edge of the deck to peer into the mechanical abyss below. It was then in that vulnerable position that fate decided to strike its cruel hand. Before Francis could react, a monstrous figure emerged from the depths of the frigid waters, surrounding the boat. It was a behemoth of the sea, a great white shark, with jaws wide open and rows of serrated teeth glistening in the sunlight. With ferocious speed, it lunged at Francis, sinking its teeth into his shoulder with a bone-crushing force. A blood-curdling scream escaped Francis's lips as searing pain shot through his body. He felt as if his flesh was being torn apart, the shark's teeth slicing through his skin like a hot knife through butter. Blood poured out from the wound, mingling with the salty waters of the San Francisco Bay, staining the once calm surface a deep crimson. Francis thrashed and writhed, desperately trying to free himself from the jaws of the predator. But the shark's grip was relentless, its teeth sinking deeper into his shoulder with each thrash and pull. The excruciating pain was overwhelming, and Francis could feel his strength ebbing away, replaced by a numbing sensation as blood loss took its toll. As the water closed in around him, Francis realized he was in a fight for his life. He tried to fend off the shark with his free hand, desperately striking its sleek body, but it seemed impervious to his feeble attempts. The shark's thrashing movements only served to drag Francis further away from the safety of the boat, deeper into the icy waters of the bay. Francis felt a sense of hopelessness creeping over him. His body grew weak, and his vision blurred. He knew he was running out of time. But then, a surge of determination coursed through him, fueled by a primal instinct to survive. Summoning every ounce of strength he had, Francis reached out with his free hand and groped for the shark's eye. With a primal roar of pain and determination, Francis mustered every bit of strength he had to hold on to the shark's eye, feeling its squirming body thrash and writhe in agony beneath him. His grip was unrelenting, his fingers digging into the soft flesh of the predator's eye as he clung to life with every fiber of his being. The shark, shocked by the sudden attack, momentarily let go of Francis's shoulder, giving him the chance he needed to pull himself away from its razor-sharp teeth. Francis felt a searing pain rip through his flesh as he tore himself free, his shoulder and arm mangled beyond recognition. But he refused to give up even as the water around him turned crimson with his own blood. He knew that his only chance of survival was to fight back with everything he had. With a primal scream of defiance, Francis kicked the shark's nose with all his might, feeling the force of the impact reverberate through his entire body. The shark, stunned and in pain, swam away in a sudden burst of speed, disappearing into the murky depths. Francis was left floating in the water.